What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show and the MMA channel. We are back with another episode coming to you live every Friday and Monday at 1:30 p.m. PST. And this is after a very interesting week and a really big fight card coming up tomorrow. By the way, if you guys missed it, but I'm sure you didn't. If you guys are regular followers of this channel, I'm sure you are well aware that tomorrow is UFC London, which is going to be an awesome card. At least I think. I mean, I'm actually curious to see Molly McCann, but definitely the top three fights on the card are really exciting. And we're going to start the show off by talking about those and also just kind of doing some quick catching up about news regarding the channel. We have some interesting announcements and developments with the channel as well. So we're going to start off the bat talking about that. But Justin, anyways, how's life with you? How's the hand recovering?
Oh man, we're ready to go. I should be training I plan to get back to training once we get back from Montana next weekend. So we were good to go right now. Currently, I'm in Florida. Just got to my hotel here. I'm here for Wednesday, kind of just relaxing, drinking a couple beers and having a good time.
Does the hand hurt, like, or can you pretty much use it fully already?
I can use it fully. It just hurts on impact, like if I hit anything or stuff like that. But as for daily tasks, I'm good to go.
Did the doctor say how long until you can like hit a bag?
He said I wait at least 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay, got it. So you're going to train outside of striking. Got it.
Yeah.
Tehran jumped in, by the way. He said, "What's up, boys? I missed the last live streams. For some reason, YouTube sends me doesn't send you notifications. What the heck? Maybe hit that bell. That sucks. I don't know what's going on there. All right. Well, speaking of the channel, we got a couple announcements. I don't know what's been going on. I've been kind of perplexed, but somehow we've been gaining a lot of subs in the last week. We've gained like 260 subs, so we're up to 1,667. The weird thing is, I still can't figure out where the subs are coming from. Like, it's not correlated to views of particular videos like normal. So we're kind of scratching our heads as to why we're having so much growth. What's up, Western? What's up, Tehran? But yeah, it looks like we're on our way to 2,000 subs. So I have no idea what's going on. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised, but I'm just like, I've been talking to Justin. I'm like, what the heck is happening? Is this real? Is this actually like people? You know what I mean? Anyways, so, but assuming it's all good and somehow people are just finding the channel and subscribing, we are thrilled. We are happy. We are on the climb. And a couple other things. We made some fun videos this week. We made one the other day, Justin and I kind of together. We made our recordings separately, but then merged them about Conor McGregor essentially being done. And then did you hear this new news about Conor?
President, man. He's running for
president. He announced he's running for president. So I think between the reasons that I cited and you cited, I guess, I mean, the election, I looked it up, is in November of 2025. So I think that's it. I think he's out of the fight game. I mean, if he goes into politics, you never know. He might come back in like 5 or 10 years and just like have a fight just for the heck of it. But yeah, I guess that's it. But what do you make of this? Do you take it seriously? Do you think he's actually running for president? Do you think he's going to change his mind in a week? What do you think?
I mean, if he does, man, dude, how is he going to become the president, man? Like with all his debacles going on, I just can't. I mean, I guess Donald Trump, has incredible support, and he has a lot of debacles too. So
yeah,
I guess it's possible, but I think it's kind of crazy.
That's what Jesse on Fire said. He made a video saying like, look, Trump kind of showed that even if you got a lot of stuff in your past, if you're kind of like open about it and people know, and it's not like you're trying to hide stuff necessarily, you can win. You can be successful. So it's possible. Now, how much of the Irish population still likes Conor McGregor? What we hear all the time is that most folks in Ireland don't like Conor and aren't fans of him. So that's going to be a big telltale sign of whether or not he can pull this off. But I think it's interesting, regardless if he's throwing his hat in the arena and wants to get involved. It feels like, see, I'll tell you what it feels like to me. What it feels like to me is Conor wants to do a million things. He wants to do a bare knuckle boxing match. He wants to fight people in the UFC. He still wants a UFC title run. And he wants to get involved in politics. It's sort of the flavor of the week. And that's his personality, is a bit of an enthusiast. If you know the wisdom of the Enneagram and the 7 personality types, he might be somewhere similar to me. Maybe this is just speculation. So maybe it's like he just visited the White House. Then he visited a bunch of other politicians in the U.S. He's getting all amped up, and he's like, no, I want to make a change. I can make an impact. I can help the people of Ireland.
And he wanted to be a movie star.
And he wanted to be a movie star. So will this change in a week? That's the thing about him. I don't know, right? He might go back to Ireland. He might go back to his gym, train a couple times and be like, nah, I still got it. I want to get back in there and show what I got in the UFC. So it could be a flavor of the week. That's what I'm wondering. But if he does take a run for it, one thing that I do think is interesting. I made a video. I included this in our video. If you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. It says Conor McGregor is done fighting is the title of it. But one of the funny things is, which is insane that this might be true, is all his time fighting and talking smack to people may have set him up perfectly to have political debates, because political debates at the end of the day are just like childish, like name calling back and forth and just, you know what I mean? So he might actually be perfectly positioned and primed to be a politician. Think about him going up against his opponent in a political debate. Who the F is that guy? He's so funny. Anyways, we'll see what happens with Conor. I know, Justin, you don't want to see him fight anybody. You definitely didn't want to see him fight Ilya, so we'll see. But it looks like this might finally be the end of Conor McGregor's legacy and reign in the UFC. But anyways, let's get on to more pressing stuff, and let's jump right into UFC Fight Card London. Hold on. I'm going to do a let me do a – no, actually, I'm not going to do a screen share. Let's just pop it up here. We're going to start right off the top with the main event. Now, I know we talked about this earlier in the week, but let's get into it. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Now, the first thing I want to say is Leon did an interview earlier in the week with Ariel Helwani, and he went on there and said that he feels as though his loss to Bilal Muhammad was a fluke, and he thinks that if they fought 10 more times, he would beat Bilal 10 out of 10 times. So let me just turn it over to you first, Justin. What do you think about Leon saying that? Do you think that's totally nonsense, or do you believe him?
It's nonsense, man. Like, you're saying 11, you win 1, or you lose 1.
Oh, Justin. Oh, your connection is really, really got crazy there for a second. Wait, hold on. See, are you on the Wi-Fi or okay? Wait, try again. Try again. So
I'm
yeah,
on Wi-Fi. I'm on Wi-Fi.
Okay, now try again. See if it
yeah,
works.
like I said, Leon Edwards, man, what an incredible fighter, one of my favorite. But it's just very standard stuff he's saying. Fighters aren't going to say, "Oh well, if we fight 10 times, I'm going to win 5 of them." Like, he wants to show confidence, whether it's real, whether it's fake. As a fighter, that's kind of what we have to do, man. And I think Leon Edwards can beat Bilal. The fight was close. I think him going in there with a new game plan. It's really tough to beat somebody twice, especially as tough as Leon Edwards. So, do I think Leon Edwards would win 10-10? No. But I do think he'd win some.
So now he's going up against Sean Brady, another wrestle heavy style. During the face-off, I don't know if you saw it, but he's going up next to Sean Brady. And he goes, "Man, you're a lot smaller than I thought," right? Just trying to mess with him. What do you know what I mean? I don't know what that says. And Sean's response was, "Yeah, well, everybody's the same size when you're lying on your back in the submission." So. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun going back and forth. But yeah, what is your final take and prediction for this awesome matchup?
I think Sean Brady's awesome. I think he has a lot of potential. I still think Sean Brady has a lot of growth to do, and I think this fight stepping up for Leon Edwards is a huge step up in competition, and it's really going to show fighters and fans in the UFC where Sean Brady belongs in the division. If he's going there and take down Leon Edwards and win a decisive victory, that's huge. That's huge for Sean Brady. But with that being said, I think this is a huge step up in competition. I have Leon Edwards all day.
All right. Well, I think I'm picking Leon Edwards as well. Leon Edwards, number 1, Sean Brady, number 5. I'd like to see Leon get it done. Plus, it's in his hometown of London, the UK. I'm going to double check what time. I think the fights are actually at normal time. Let me double check here. So that'll be the daytime for us, which is going to be pretty cool. But let me just make sure really quickly. You'll see London date. And it will take place on what time does it start here? 6 p.m. What? Yeah, it's going to start at the daytime. So it's going to start 3 p.m. PST, which is actually kind of fun. So it'll be earlier in the afternoon. So regular time for London. And that was Leon's big complaint last time, that fighting in the middle of the night really threw him off. Do you think that was a legit? You said that's really tough, right? When you fight in the morning or fight in weird times. You said you've had to do that before and it was really weird, right?
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. Just, because you get in rhythm, typically you're training in the afternoon, and then, trying to get to the gym. And I know some fighters do talk about, fighting with that time change and so on and so forth. But I think that's something I would struggle with. I think a lot of fighters struggle with it as well. I mean, obviously, one of the guys in there still has to win. But I think fighting at the early afternoon, or excuse me, late afternoon, early evening is probably the best time for optimal performance. I mean, you look at NFL games. They never go. I shouldn't say never because they're starting to go over to the UK and stuff. But I mean, typically NFL games are going to be early afternoon, or they're going to be 5 o'clock at night. Just in that prime time. I think when your body's at peak performance, and I think fighting at nighttime definitely hinders performance.
All right, Justin, just FYI, your connection is still breaking up a little bit. I don't know if you could reposition yourself maybe in the room.
Do you want me to disconnect the internet?
Yeah, try that. Try that. Okay, yeah, try that. All right, let's move in to the next matchup. Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. Now,
let me know.
Okay, I think it's actually better now. We were talking last time about Carlos Ulberg and his crazy record, all the finishes that he has going against Jan Blachowicz in this light heavyweight matchup. Again, Jan Blachowicz, former champ, legend of the game, really, really, really solid fighter. But he's had a 2-year layoff, 2+ year layoff. And not only that, he's coming off some crazy injuries, crazy surgeries, moreover. And coming back, as Celine says, hi, guys. What's up, Celine? Welcome back to the show. Thank you. Thank you for joining. So, Justin, we talked about this on Monday. Let me turn it back over to you. We've been hearing these guys talk in the pressers and the lead-ups and the interviews. What's your final take on this fight and this matchup?
Yeah, I think Blachowicz is going to have a tough time, man. Carlos Ulberg, you look at his, I think he has one decision win, and this guy is a finishing machine. I believe, do we say what he's on a really nice fight streak or win streak right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7-fight win streak here. We're gonna share his record.
Seven. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's I don't recognize any of his his wins, but still, man, I talked last week or last show. It's hard to get wins in the year. And 7 in a row, show up 7 times, so impressive. I think it's a huge step up in competition, but I don't think
all right, I'm muting Justin, guys, because Justin, your connection's super choppy. It's cutting in and out. So can you do us a favor? Can you try and log off and jump back on? See if that fixes it, because it sounds like a robot. We can't really hear you. So see if you can try and restart and join. Okay, we got a couple of comments here as well. MGal4 Productions. Andrew Nance says, "Let's effing go, Jan." And we've also got Ulberg gonna put him out from MGal4 Productions. We've got Leon gonna knock Sean out. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you gotta go with Leon Edwards. Even though, look, Leon Edwards, the one thing you can say, even though, let's go back to that fight real quick. Even though you got Sean Brady, he's a legend on the ground. Now he did lose to Bilal Muhammad. He thinks he could have gotten, if he has a rematch, he would get that one back and he would beat Bilal. Whatever would happen there, we don't know. But it's a grapple heavy style, and this is something that people thought would be a problem historically for Leon. But look how well Leon did against Kamaru Usman. Look how well both times he even shot his own takedown. Leon is not afraid. Look how well Leon did against Colby Covington, whatever you want to say about Colby, but Colby's a G on the ground. So the one fight, yeah, Bilal got him and got to him. Leon, in his defense, says that he was thrown off by the nighttime and all these other things. I feel like you got to pick Leon Edwards. I'm just commenting on MGal4 Productions comment, but I feel like you got to pick Leon in this matchup. And if Sean Brady gets it done, man, this will be massive for him. I believe he's a Philly native, so this will be massive for Sean Brady. We'll probably shoot him to, who knows, number 2 maybe, because he's taking on the number 1 guy. Welterweight is wild. And then we still have Shavkat waiting in the wings. We still have Ian Gary waiting in the wings. This is one of the weirdest divisions, right? We have Bilal going up against JDM. We've got 2 other contenders that nobody's even talking about right now that are in there. We still got Kamaru Usman circling and waiting to come back. So, yeah, there we go. Andrew Nance says, sexy Celine. Celine, there you go. Okay, and then MGal4 Production says, Ian Gary destroyed Shavkat's knee. He might have. I mean, here. I think that was a pre-existing injury, though, but maybe he exacerbated the injury. That could be possible. Okay, anyways, getting back to Jan Blachowicz and Carlos Ulberg. Sorry, Justin, you're breaking up before. I think your connection's much better now. Can you give us your thoughts one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Blachowicz, he's an incredible fighter. We're talking about Polish power. We're talking about the former UFC champion. But when you look at Carlos Ulberg, 7-fight win streak, it's freaking tough to get wins in the UFC, let alone 7 in a row. Now, when you look at the resume, he has a lot of finishes. I think his last win was a decision. But I don't recognize any of the names on the list. So he hasn't really fought anybody credible. This is a huge step up in competition. But Blachowicz, like we talked about, he is coming back, 2-year layoff, double shoulder surgery. Is his body going to be able to hold up? And someone like Carlos Ulberg is really going to test if his body's able to hold up. I think he's going to come at Blachowicz really heavy. He wants to finish. He wants to improve this record to 8. This will shoot him high into the rankings if he wins, especially with dramatic fashion. I mean, he's probably going to be in the top 10 in the UFC. I think this is a huge opportunity for him, and I see Ulberg taking full advantage of this opportunity.
Okay,
getting the win.
I want to show you guys a couple of things. So first of all, we'll highlight a couple of comments, but I want to show you the last guy who Carlos, because I know we don't recognize the name. Sadly, I probably should do a little bit more digging, but I'm going to show you the resume of the guy who Carlos just beat, which is actually pretty incredible. But okay, we got a couple of comments. So Carrie Jane says, "Hey guys, great show." Thank you, Carrie. I've seen a lot of your comments on the channel, so thank you for being an active participant and commenter on our videos. We're trying to grow, and we're making content like crazy. We're doing 1-2 videos a day. And we're really trying to be on that grind. Any feedback or comments you guys have, please let us know. Lane says, "What's up? What's up, Lane?" Andrew says, "What's up, back?" I just can't get on board with 42-year-old injured long layoff Jan. I mean,
yep.
I think that's kind of, it sucks.
I agree 100%.
MGAL4 Productions, Crazy Kennedy knocked out Carlos, and Tehran says, "I think Jan gets it done." Tehran usually is pretty on the money. I don't know. So this will be very interesting. Again, it's a great fight. I'm super fascinated to see what happens. By the way, MGAL4 Productions has a question for Justin. He says, "Justin, are you officially retired or still looking for fights?"
It has to be the right opportunity, and I have a minimum. I think it came out a little saying that my buddy came out and posted all these pictures of him and I throughout my career and saying, "Oh, congrats on the career." I said at the end in the video Huzaifa did that I said it might be the last time you see. Might means that if it is the last time, I'm okay with it. But there's a show in Brazil in November that I'm looking for, that I'm going to try to get matched up on. Tough Enough is going to Tampa in the next couple months. I might try to get matched up on there. Right now, I mean, me getting back to a big show like the UFC is very unlikely. I think it's near impossible. I'd have to win 4 or 5 fights in a row, which not saying I couldn't. I just don't really want to. Right now, like I said, I'll be fighting for a paycheck. I'm fighting for experience now, guys. And what I mean by experience is traveling experience. And if I'm going to fight somewhere like Montana, Michigan, or Las Vegas that I fought before, I have a minimum now. I have a pay minimum. So if the pay minimum doesn't get met, or it's not a cool opportunity to go like Brazil or Florida or out of the country, I'm totally fine if it was my last one, but it probably wasn't.
MGAL4 Productions is asking, "How old are you?"
34.
34. There we go.
That's also, and I'm punch drunk because 35. I'm 35. I'm 35.
Yeah, okay, but you were 34 last year, so hey.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
this time last year I was 34.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's look at the last guy that Carlos Ulberg beat. If you guys may not recognize the name, but look who he's beat. Johnny Walker. I've heard of Bogdan Guskov, but I can't put a face to him. Beat Paul Craig. Lost. I mean, he's actually, look at this guy. He's fought some crazy people.
Yeah, he's fought some good
guys. Beat Rockage. Yeah. Lost to Dominic Reyes, lost to Anthony Smith. Holy smokes. I mean, he fought Magomed Ankalaev. This is crazy. I mean, he lost to him, but still. So even though maybe this guy may not be as recognizable as a name, but he's a serious guy that Carlos Ulberg recently beat. So, okay, I think the consensus is for most of us, except for Tehran, is that Carlos Ulberg is going to get it done, but we shall see. All right, moving on to the next fight, which I'm very, very intrigued about. Gunnar Nelson, which I think you know more about him than Kevin Holland. I think one of the reasons, I've talked about this many, many, many times on the channel, what makes the fights extra exciting is always the stakes. And I actually think, you might think this is a Kevin Holland gatekeeper coming in, stakes aren't so high. I don't know. Justin talked about this last time. I think Kevin Holland has to get a victory here. I think he's had a lot of losses in a row. I believe we looked up his record last time.
He's 1-5 in his last 6 or something.
In his last 6, that's crazy. And as much of a fan favorite as he is, and as much fun as his fighting style and his trash talking is, Like, he seems to be on a pretty long losing streak. You talked about on the Jackson pod. It sounds like he's not even really taking training super seriously anymore. He said he doesn't train specifically for specific opponents. He kind of goes in there, does his thing, smokes a lot of weed is what he talked about, which I think can impact recovery. That's what the guys on the Jackson podcast were talking to him about. So I think, like, my general look, there's a lot of athletes that do smoke, but I think, like, you look at Sean O'Malley, for example, I think he has it very dialed in, the way he does it, the timing of it, to make sure to maximize his recovery and whatnot. So I don't think Kevin seems to be as dialed in that way. So it appears as though maybe that last loss to RDR was a wake-up call, because he even posted shortly after that, like, I have to clean things up. But this is the stakes are high here for Kevin Holland. That being said, with the high stakes, how do you see this going?
Man, Kevin, unfortunately, I like him a lot. I like his personality. I like listening to him on the mic. I like his fighting style, but you got to win fights, man. And that's the UFC. And, when I got cut from the UFC, I talked to Sean Shelby. And, again, I always go back to comparing it to myself or from my experience in the UFC. And Sean Shelby, I remember where we were at, where I was at a Halloween party, and I walk up to him, he was walking one way, and I stood right in front of him like, oh, you're gonna fire me and not even say hi? I said it very jokingly.
Yeah.
And, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, Justin, we freaking loved you. We loved your personality. You're a great guy to work with. You were very easy. You're very flexible. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, you got to win fights. And I said, I know, man. It wasn't personal. And he's like, I know we put you in some precarious situations, but at the end of the day, you got to find ways to win, especially at your age. And you look at Kevin Holland. I'm going to put him in the same boat. He's fought. Here's a crazy statistic. He's fought 19 times since 2020. 19 times. That's insane.
Crazy. That's crazy.
But at the end of the day, being a company man like I was, I fought 5 times in a year for the UFC, under the UFC banner, 5 times in a year. That's freaking insane. And, Kevin to do it 19 times in the last 5 years. It's great to be a company man, and you will have company man benefits. But again, at the end of the day, if you're not winning fights, it's not good business. And, Gunnar Nelson, super tough vet, been around for a while. I think he takes his training a little more serious than Kevin does. And unfortunately for Kevin Holland, because I like his fighting style, I like him as a fighter, I like him as a person, I like his personality, I just don't see him getting it done.
So Gunnar Nelson, he began grappling back in 2006. He got his jiu-jitsu blue belt from Matt Thornton from Straight Blast Gym International. And then from 17, he continued to train under John Kavanaugh. So he is it fair to say that Gunnar Nelson is going to come out with a grappling heavy style? I mean, what do you foresee how this fight's going to go down?
I don't really know, man, because Kevin Holland is no slouch on the ground. I know he's been submitted a couple times, but I do believe Kevin Holland is a black belt. Do I think he has the grappling advantage here? No, I don't. But he can grapple, man. So, this is a toss-up fight. Actually, there's very, very, I shouldn't say very often that I don't at least have an idea. Am I saying my idea is always right? Absolutely not. Of course not. Most of the time it's wrong. But this one, I honestly have no idea. I don't know if Gunnar's going to want to keep it on the feet. I don't know if Kevin's going to want to keep it on the feet. I would imagine. I don't see Kevin trying to take Gunnar down, given Gunnar's wrestling or grappling credentials. But with that being said, man, desperate times call for desperate measures. Kevin Holland typically doesn't use his wrestling, and he's 1-5 in his last 6. Like, maybe he takes a different approach here and tries to catch Gunnar Nelson off guard. I honestly, I don't have an opinion about this. This is a tough one to call.
Which makes it a fun fight. And Gunnar Nelson's background, by the way, is in karate, Goju-Ryu karate. So he's got a striking background as well. I don't know. It's very interesting. Okay, I want to go through some of the comments. So Tehran, this says, Kevin Holland title run starts tomorrow. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or maybe half serious. I'd love to know. I mean, look, dude, he's so talented.
Yeah, he does.
The people were saying that. Remember, he won 5 fights in a row in a year or something like that. He was on this crazy streak. People were talking about him in title contention because he's extremely athletically talented. Maybe he's taken his foot off the pedal in terms of his training and his regimens and stuff like that. And maybe that's what's caused him to slip and slide. And I don't know.
And honestly, guys, like, burnout is a real thing, man. Fighting a tough guy, like, here's the thing. When you're coming up on the regional circuit, especially early on, like, you can get cupcake matchups. You can go in there, you're going to knock them out in 30 seconds. No, you're not knocking them in a minute. You're padding your record to get to the UFC. But once you get to the UFC, every fight, you take so much damage. And, it wears on you, man. And again, 19 fights since 2020. He's taken a lot of damage. Cutting weight, guys, like cutting weight really gets
Mm,
tough, you know. And again, he had to cut weight 19 times since 2020. I mean, it just pays a toll on you. And you know, going
mm.
back to my last fight 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting in the tub. I woke up at 169 pounds. I had to be under 160 by 4 o'clock, which was 4 hours. And man, I'm sitting in the tub and my life was miserable. And it's like, why am I? And you start going through those demons, like, why am I doing this? This is terrible. I'm never doing this again. It's, you know, every single time I made weight at 145 in the UFC, I looked at Roman and said, I never want to do that again. And if that means retire, that means retire, because when you're in that low state of sitting there and just getting, I mean, he's making a lot more money than I did, so there's that incentive. But at the end of the day, man, just things fighters put their bodies through. You're not meant to fight forever. That's why, you know, most guys are retired by the time they're 35. And when guys do go to 40, and you know, that's the thing. Like I always say, like, oh, guys are retired around 35. It's like, oh, well, this guy Randy fought till he was 50, and this guy fought. It's like, listen, those are called anomalies. You know what I'm saying? That's like Lyoto Machida coming in and winning a UFC championship with karate. Like, oh, well, karate's great for MMA. It's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, look at Lyoto Machida. Look how great he is. It's like, okay, there's Lyoto Machida. There's what am I thinking?
Wonderboy.
Anderson Silva, Stephen Thompson. But as overall, there's only a couple of guys that can come in with a karate heavy approach. And you know, at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that works. And I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, and I'm losing focus on what my original thought was.
It's all good.
But
It's all good.
but regardless, man, I mean, being a fighter is freaking tough, man. And if Kevin Holland is losing his fire, and that's why he's losing fights, I mean, I don't blame him. And if anybody blames him and says, oh, he's weak, go take an amateur fight and tell me how fun that is, and make sure it's against a tough guy. And then think of doing that 20 times in 5 years at the highest level, and then tell me how weak he is.
No, 100%. And he's still actually, I think he's only 31 or 32. So he's still relatively young in a slightly, like, I know welterweight, maybe the timeline's not as long in general for fighters, but it's longer for sure than, I mean, obviously than bantamweight or lightweight, featherweight, etc. So he could have a longer run. Who knows? If he's so athletically talented, he's done so much already, and now maybe he dials into training extra hard and maybe strategizes a bit. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, but you have to think, because yeah, he might physically be okay. He might 31 years old. It's like, oh, that's not that old. He's fought 19 times. Like
So
I always say,
crazy.
I always say, like every time you fight, like you lose like a year of your life, like the
Oof.
longevity of your life. And like, I mean, it's not literal, obviously a year, but
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing damage, and keeping it together physically is one thing at 31, 32. I mean, I think he can keep it together physically, bar no serious injuries, but mentally, guys, like mentally keeping it on, remember, dialing it in, man, it's tough. Like, you know, I missed weight my last two MMA fights, not because I couldn't make weight, just because mentally it's like I'm sitting at home, and normally, like when I'm getting to one again, I sorry, I'm going back to myself, but like when I'm in the UFC going down to 145, I wake up at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night with hunger cravings or hunger pains, and I'm like, nope, I gotta be diligent. I got to do this. I got to do this right. I got to do this right. Now I look at my last fight. I woke up with hunger pains. I'm eating a whole box of cereal, man. I'm eating pizza rolls because mentally I just wasn't there like I was before. And unfortunately that happens a lot, man. If that's happened to Kevin Holland, I have a lot of sympathy for him, and I hope he overcomes it. But it's, man, I tell you what, it's freaking hard to overcome, man.
Well, we shall see, and that's what makes this fight so exciting. We're going to find out on Saturday what's going down with Kevin Holland. Okay, we got a lot of comments. Obviously, got to start with this one, Andrew. This is 4570. That just will never die. Sorry, Kevin Holland. Remember when? Let's see here. He knows this is for him. Can't keep a 1-6 dude around in the UFC, says Lane. Yeah, I mean, and that's what makes the fight exciting. I'm going Kevin Holland all the way. I'm rooting for him. I think his back's against the wall. I think he's gonna pull it out. Do you think the UFC ever gets rid of those crappy Venom Fit kits and go back to the sponsor area? I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think what basically is happening, in my opinion, is the UFC is essentially trying to streamline everything and not have such like breakout individuals. They want it to more be about the brand of the UFC, I think, than highlighting individual fighters and their uniqueness. That's what I believe is happening. So I think that's part of that formula. So they're going to keep it all just Venom. But you don't like any of the Venom stuff? All my fighting gear is Venom stuff. I like it.
I don't like it that much. It's kind of
Oh yeah.
I don't really like the way it fits. I thought Reebok's gear was a lot better, but Dana White has talked about this, and the reason they don't like to do individual sponsors, because they say the UFC is a professional organization, and you don't see the NFL, you don't see the NBA, you don't see those big sport organizations doing individual sponsorships. You don't see guys wearing logos on their jersey, and the UFC is like, hey, look, we're as serious and as professional as these organizations, and that's why they're following suit that way. And not to mention, like, my sponsors for the UFC were so pathetic. It was like $2,500 comparative to some guys were making 50 and 100 grand. And I
Yeah.
think the UFC is like, hey, look, if we're not making that money, nobody is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, so many exciting things are about to happen with the UFC. Maybe a Netflix deal, all these other sponsorship things they're working on. I mean, it's so exciting. And I keep putting more money into TKO stock. I'm like, I feel like the company's about to explode. I don't know if you guys share my enthusiasm, but I'm a big fan of the organization in general. So let's see what happens. Kevin Holland bought Dana White shoes, so he'll be all right. Oh yeah, Two Smelly Fingers says that. Tehran says Holland is a sneaker head myself. We're just going to go through a couple more comments, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Holland never the same after Wonder Boy. Yeah, he did take some damage in that fight, that's for sure. A couple other,
that, and that's funny you say that, Miguel, because when I played college football, and I played a semester of college football, or excuse me, a season, and I talked to some guys about when they quit or I was like, man, why didn't you just play the 4 years in college? And I remember this really good football player told me, he says, there's going to be a hit you're going to take in your career that you're never going to forget, and it's going to change you as a person.
oh,
And I was like, no, that won't happen. That won't happen. He goes, you're going to remember it for the rest of your life, and you remember it very vividly, and it's gonna change you as a football player. And I was like, whatever, old man. And I remember that hit for me. I was on a blitz. I was a safety. I had the quarterback's back turned towards me, and I got a free hit on him. I'm like, oh, this is the one. And he caught me out of the corner of his eye. He turned, he lowered the shoulder, and that quarterback hit me so hard that my helmet flew off. And I remember like kind of wobbling over, grabbing my helmet, walking to the sidelines. And I remember specifically thinking in my head, that was that hit. And I never played football ever again in college after that. And to go back to Mgel's point here, when it came to fighting, when I fought Gavin Tucker, I was never the same after that. I just physically and mentally was not the same. I mean, he hit me with flying knees, he hit me with spike elbows, he kicked me in the head, he kicked me in the body, he kicked me. My body was so beat up after that fight that I'll be honest with myself, and I'll be honest with our viewers, is I really think I lost a step after that fight, and I have not been able to put together a win. Or I've been able to put together one win since that fight. I really think that fight mentally changed me. I think the weight cut mentally changed me. I had to go from 185 to 145 in 4 weeks. I think the training changed me, and I know I came out of that fight. I'm not going to say a lesser man, but I think Gavin Tucker broke me, and I don't think I've ever been the same since.
It's so crazy because I don't want to believe that, but obviously there has to be, that has to be true. And remember, we were going back to Justin Gaethje after Max Holloway. You were worried that maybe that had happened to him, but then he came back looking, I thought, better than ever. Maybe some people would disagree, but he looked great. So man, it's just such a crazy thing, and everybody's body is different, and maybe everybody's recovery process is different. But yeah, I'd hate for that to be true with Kevin Holland, but maybe even if he hasn't been the same and he's been on a downward trajectory to some extent, maybe he's dialed in his recovery, his training, his eating, sleep. Maybe he really dialed it in, and we'll see a new Kevin Holland. Maybe.
I mean, do you think that, being 1-5 in his last 6, that Kevin is going to sit down and be like, all right, if I win the next 7 fights in a row, which will be 26 fights in 5 years, or, if he does in the next couple of years, or say 8 years,
Yeah.
like, he's going to have to win 6 or 7 fights in a row at the highest level against ranked guys. Like, when you think of that task at hand, that is exhausting. Think about that. Like, can you imagine sitting down like, okay, I got to fight 7 of the toughest guys in the world, and I have to beat all 7 of them to even be considered a top 5 opponent? I mean, that's just an exhausting thought. And think of all the time and work. Like, we're talking 5 more, maybe not 5 years, but, if he wants to slow down, we're talking at least 3 more years of fighting guys, and he has to beat all of them. I just think I think it's just too tall of a task mentally for him, let alone any fighter. I mean, guys have done it. Charles Oliveira started his career off with a losing record, and again, and that's the thing.
Anomaly.
It's an anomaly, and guys will use Carlos Oliveira as an example, and it's an incredible example. And I think Juan Blachowicz started his career off 0-2 as well. I'm pretty sure he started his career off 0-2.
I'll check.
And these are incredible feats But guys, it's not every fighter can do this. And again, speaking of myself, I don't think I could. I think if I got signed back to the UFC, and I don't think I could mentally put together the task to try to win 5 to 7 fights in a row at the highest level to get in champ, because you're going to take so much damage during that time, win or lose, and it's just so much to overcome. And I'm not trying to sound mentally weak, because I think I'm a pretty mentally strong person. I've persevered through stuff that most people couldn't imagine. But at the end of the day, man, your mind and your body get tired, and if that's what's happening to him, man, I have a lot of sympathy, and I think a lot of fans need to stop thinking it's being mentally weak, and it's and have sympathy for these fighters, because it's our job, it's our livelihood. He loses this fight, he might lose his job, and now he has to go to the GFL and try to make 20,000 a fight, and then if he loses there, and then he's getting cut from there, and the guys when guys like Kevin Holland go on these losing streaks, like their career possibly could be coming to an end, and like me, I know my MMA career at a high level is over, and going through this identity crisis that I'm going through right now, that I have been for the last couple of years since being cut from the UFC. Like, last year I had an opportunity, like, hey, I beat this guy at Tough Enough, like I get signed back to the UFC, and unfortunately I got kicked in the head and it didn't work out for me. So it's like I've been dealing with this identity crisis for the last couple of years of who am I after fighting, and I think a lot of fighters do. And I've talked to professional football players, and when they retire from the NFL, they were a football player their whole life. Jerome Sapp, I coach his kids. He was in the NFL for 8 years. He played. He was a special teams captain for the Colts with Peyton Manning. He was a special team captain for the Ravens with Ray Lewis. And he's somebody that I've really been able to confide in and talk to about moving on past sports. And some guys like me, it's just really tough to let go. And no matter how bad we get our asses beat or lose, it's just a really hard identity to let go, because that's what we know. Now, we're not even known public for, but that's what we know ourselves for. I'm like, I'm a fighter. I'm not a gym teacher. I'm not a fire department. I'm not a firefighter. I'm not a cop. I'm a fighter, man. And in the next couple of years, that's in the next. Not in the next. Like now, that's changing, and it's really hard to deal with mentally.
See, that's why the insight from Justin, I think, is from you is so valuable on the show, because exactly you're putting it in perspective from a really real position, as opposed to just me kind of theorizing and talking about it. And I think
people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off, man. Sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it.
But fighters, we lie to the public, we lie to ourselves, we could to hold on to this identity, and until you're in the position that I'm in, that I'm half out the door. Like, I have to admit, the biggest thing about admitting my identity crisis was admitting it to myself. Because if I got signed to the UFC, what am I going to say? Oh, I'm born again. I'm back to training hard. I'm mentally good. I'm going to lie to the public, and in turn lie to myself to try to convince myself that this is true, whether it is or isn't. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But at the end of the day, for me, if I came out into the public and said, "Oh man, everything is clicking good mentally," that'd be a bold-faced lie. But that is what I'm going to say to try to convince myself it's true, if that makes sense.
For sure. Now, do you think, just going back to this Kevin Holland fight and him being in this position, as you mentioned, the identity crisis, that if he does lose, dude, he might be cut. If it's not this one, it might be one more after this. So that's all on the line. And I think that's the interesting question is, hey, like, he doesn't you're kind of into all these other things, right? Like, let's say this is the end for you in terms of fighting, but you got commentating, you got our channel. There's a lot of things we're working on right now that are interesting and exciting. But I don't know, maybe Kevin's got stuff too, but I don't believe he does. I don't think he does any of those other things.
Does he have a podcast?
I don't think so.
Hey, we'd love to get him on the show, be a part of the 10
Oh, that'd be awesome.
You want to retire?
That'd be awesome. Hey, let's have a trifecta. But if that is the case, that might see again why this fight is so interesting. Maybe because for him, it's like he doesn't have other things set up or lined up or things that he's even excited about. There's lots of things I'm sure he could do, but maybe he hasn't got them yet. So in his mind, it's like, yo, my back's against the wall. I don't want to get cut from the UFC. He probably gets paid a lot too, because he's such a big name. Probably makes 200, 300, 400. Who knows what he makes? He probably makes a lot of money per fight.
I don't think he makes that much, to be honest. No. When you're losing like that, you have no negotiation power. I would say he probably makes like 60 and 60. And I might be. I mean, it's public information. You can look it up. Maybe 100 and 100. Maybe, but again, he's 1-5 in his last 6. Where's his bargaining power? And I think, I'll be honest, if he loses this fight, I don't think he'll get cut just yet, even though he'll be 1-6. But when you look at, I'm trying to think who was on a 7-fight losing, smiling Sean Alvey. He lost 7 or 8 fights in a row, and he wasn't a company man. You talk about Kevin Holland, he's a company man, 19 fights in the UFC in the last 5 years. The UFC does want to keep him around, and he's done a lot of favors. So I don't think he'll, I mean, if he did get cut, it wouldn't surprise me, but I think he has to lose 2 more in a row.
Yeah, you're probably right. But the point remains.
What's his pay?
So I looked it up. I don't know if this is real or not. It said he's made more than 200,000 per fight for and it says against Ponzinibbio he got 316,000, against Chiesa he got 356,000. It says his base. I mean, I would be shocked, dude. He's so well known. He is liked. I think he's got a good relationship with Dana White in the UFC, and it makes sense because like when I see him on a card, I immediately want to watch it. I want to see what happens. I want to see even if I don't think he's favored to win. I don't know. I feel like he's got a lot of brand recognition and a lot of he adds a lot of weight to the card. So that's my thoughts. Plus, as a gatekeeper too, he's a recognizable name. So if other fighters that are up and coming get a win over him, it's a big deal, and it can justify moving them up through the ranks pretty quickly. So, man, let's see what happens. Let's see if Kevin Holland can get the victory. I'm rooting for him, and we'll see what happens. We got a lot of other comments, and then we're going to go to our next topic. We got let's see here. We got a lot of people talking about sponsors. Hey, John Mott is back. I remember him telling me that. Yeah, MGAL4 Productions, let's back it up. He says, he bought TKO stock. Let's go. Yeah, I just bought some more last week. Football is more dangerous than MMA. I do think so, too. I agree with that, Justin. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We got a couple more comments. I remember him telling me this years ago. True story.
About the football? Yeah, it's me and John go way back. We've been buddies since, it might have been even T-ball, and then through high school, really close. Through college, we were really close. And then when I moved to Vegas, we kind of like went our separate ways. But man, still supporting me, man. It's crazy because people come in your life all the time, and you have friends through elementary school, through middle school, and as years go, you guys stop talking. And John's one of the only people that I still continue to talk to for literally my whole life for 30 years. We've been buddies for 30 years.
And don't forget Bubba.
And Bubba, yeah, I've known John 10 years longer than I've known Bubba.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. We got another comment. By the way, I got so much hate on my video talking about what's going to happen for Islam next. I was saying I want to see Islam fight Gaethje. Check that video out if you guys want to check it out. It says rejected in the title, where Islam had rejected Ilya. I still don't get why this is such a bad idea. But Tehran says, I hope they rebook Gaethje versus Hooker. I mean, what's wrong, Tehran? Tell me, what's wrong with Gaethje versus Islam? I don't understand why people are getting so upset about it. They're talking about him beating a number 11th guy. That wasn't his fault. They're saying it's an undeserved title shot. He was next in line, and he did the UFC a solid by fighting Max Holloway. Yeah,
and that's the thing, man. When people say it's undeserved, we're talking about the highlight. All right, we're talking about Justin Gaethje, who has provided so much entertainment, probably more entertainment than any MMA fighter has in the last decade. Like, how can you say it's undeserved, man? He's saved shows. He saved UFC 300 main event. The guy, every time he goes out there, he goes on his shield. He never is in a boring fight. Every single fight he's been, man, I think every fight he's ever had has been a fight of the night. Like, how can people? This guy has put his life on the line. He's a Division I wrestler, and he's had one takedown. I mean, what? Like, MMA fans in Toronto, I know if you're disagreeing with me, like, don't take it personal. But what does this guy have to do to say that? Oh, he has to beat more guys in the UFC? Like, come on, man. What does this guy have to do for people to say this guy's more than worthy of a title shot right now, just given what he's done for the UFC and for MMA as a sport, man. It's like when he was in the World Series of Fighting, I was in the World Series of Fighting as well. It's the PFL now. They just changed the name. Like, dude, this guy, he was cleaning house there. He came to the UFC, cleaned house here. Guys, what does he have to do to say that he's worthy? Because I think he's more worthy than almost anybody in the whole UFC of all weight classes.
I think there's two guys that are equally worthy, is Oliveira and Gaethje, and I would rather see Gaethje because it's a fresh matchup. I don't see why that's such a crazy take. I mean, Oliveira came off of losses on a one-fight win streak, same as Justin Gaethje. Oliveira beat Chandler. Gaethje beat Fiziev. And I think a lot of people would agree that Fiziev is probably a more dangerous opponent. I don't know if you agree or not, but I think Fiziev is probably more dangerous than Michael Chandler. So I just don't understand why everybody gets so mad when I say I want to see Gaethje fight. And then also people say that, oh, well, Gaethje will get smoked by Islam. But that's not a fair argument. Just because
Oliveira did.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, exactly. Oliveira got rocked. And for people who are saying Arman Sarukian, you guys have to watch Justin's video where he explained very clearly that Arman probably bailed on that fight, not because of an injury, but because of a weight cut. He's not getting that fight. I'm sorry. He's going to have to fight Ilya, or he's going to have to fight somebody in between.
I think Ilya is the guy. As we talked about that, I think I'm going to make a video if you already haven't.
Do it.
Ilya and Sarukian, that's the fight to make for #1 contendership. Let Justin Gaethje go out, because if Justin Gaethje wins the title, what an incredible champion. If he loses, I mean, he could retire right in the cage, and how awesome would that be? Hey, this is my last title shot, guys. I'm hanging it up. Thank you for everything. I don't want to take any more brain damage. That would be incredible. And then we have such a crazy buildup for Sarukian, missing weight. And I'm going to say it because that guy wasn't injured, man. Come on. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, you can always tell when Dana White, by his react, not always, but most of the time, and the circumstance. Watch the video, guys. I have a lot of incredible points. I think Huzefa put some points in there as well. But guys, man, what a crazy buildup, and it just gives more time for Ilya to adjust to 155. It gives Sarukian more time to get his weight correct for the fight. He has to make weight again to show the world that he can, because if he gets injured 2 days before the weigh-in again, I mean, he's not getting that title shot. And it gives Ilya a chance to show the world that he belongs at lightweight. Guys, don't rush Ilya into this. Let him fight Sarukian for #1 contendership. Let Justin Gaethje have his retirement fight in case he loses. Maybe he retires as the UFC champion. I don't ever see him doing that. But how awesome would that be? He goes in there, beats Islam, and hey, man, that would be, man, what a great storyline.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't see that happening, of course not, because Justin Gaethje is too much of a gangster. But from a storyline perspective, give Ilya and Sarukian the #1 contendership match, and they get the winner of that fight gets the winner of Islam and Justin Gaethje. Final answer. That's it.
My last question is this, because I like that too. I said that as well in the video. I want to see Arman versus Ilya. I think that's great. Who would you match up Oliveira against in the meantime?
Dan Hooker.
Oh, there we go. Done. All
Dan
done.
Hooker. That's who Justin Gaethje was supposed to fight. Yep. I mean, Dan Hooker, man, he's there, and it's a new matchup. I don't think Oliveira's fought Dan Hooker before, guys. Stop going back to these matchups with and guess what? Oliveira's one of my favorite lightweight fighters, guys. When he was on that little run there as the champ, man, I was arguing like, man, he wins a couple more. He beats Islam. He's arguably the greatest he's going to be. I mean, again, he's not better than Khabib, but he's up there in the talks of one of the greats, man. And I think, guys, if you understand how Oliveira started his career off, like, I think he was on the verge of getting cut. He was like, I can't remember. You can look it up, but he had a losing record. He was like 2-7 or something like that, and then just was able to start putting it all together, man, and just to turn around and become the champion and all the great things and the positivity he spreads through Brazil and through the world is just so incredible. And I just love him as a fighter, and I think he's an incredible person. I don't even know him personally.
It's cool that people love him so much. I got so many students of mine that love. I know so many people. Charles Oliveira is their favorite fighter, but what's impressive about that is, again, he doesn't even speak English, which a lot of times can be an issue. It's not for him, and it's not for Alex Pereira, two guys that have really broken the mold there, where people just connect with them so much because it's almost like they can feel their spirit, their energy. But if we take a look back at his record, he won his first 2 fights, then lost, then no contest, then lost, won 2 more, then lost 2 more. So it was kind of up and down. It wasn't like 1-7 crazy, but he was definitely.
What did he start off? 2-4.
Let's see. So if we look, so
he started off 2
and
4.
2. So 4-4 at the beginning.
Okay. Well,
in the UFC.
So go down just a hair. Sorry, I'm trying to just look at your screen here.
Sure.
So he won his UFC debut, or he lost it?
Won.
Oh, he won it. Then he lost. He was 1-1, and go up again.
Then he lost to Cerrone.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, I thought I remember it being a little different, but regardless, start off 500, and then look at this incredible streak he went on after that. So he starts his career off. Look at that. The wins 4, loses 1, loses 2, but
still had this little. See, I didn't remember about this either. Lost to Max Holloway. He lost 4 out of 6 here, and then he just goes on a tear. Beats your boy.
So I think so he was 4-6 before he went on his tear. That's on bounds, depending if the UFC likes you or not. Like, you get cut being 4-6. And what's crazy is the UFC has cut so many guys that have a winning record. There's been guys 2-1, 3-1, and they're cutting them.
That's
why. 3-1, guys. That's what else do you want from these guys?
Mama Makayev undefeated. That's also a rarity, but still. Okay, we got so many more comments. I just want to get through a couple more, and then we'll get back to our topics. Tehran says, Holloway and Oliveira. Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, Tehran, you always seem to know stuff, so maybe there is something to it, but I'm pretty sure Holloway's fighting Dustin Poirier in for Dustin's retirement fight, but we shall see.
Is that a best of 3? Is that second matchup or third?
I think it's the second one. I don't think they fought
I know that
before. I think
Dustin Max Holloway, I thought, had fought before. No,
they fought once before. I thought
okay,
I didn't.
Yeah, you're right. I knew they had fought before. I didn't know if it was once or twice.
Yeah, and I believe Dustin won. By the way, we'll say a couple more comments. Gaethje is the ultimate champ, almost champ. He is everything Colby wishes he could be. And Andrew agrees. Justin versus Islam. Book it. He deserves it. Let's go. A couple more, and then we got to get back. Sorry, just trying to highlight some of these comments.
I'm in no rush, so we can I'm in Florida, baby, so we can go as long as you guys want.
Hooker doesn't feel like a draw to me. What?
Hooker's not a draw to me. I agree with John. I like Dan Hooker. Don't get me wrong. I like him a lot, and being friends with Oscar and to see their relationship, I think he's great. But yeah, I mean Dan Hooker, I feel, is a great fighter. I think he's a top 10 fighter. I just don't see him, and man, I hate saying this because if Oscar sees this, I don't want him to beat me up. I just don't see him as a champion caliber fighter. I see him as a top 10 guy that is always going to be in the top 10 or in that area, give or take. But I think he's going to be an incredible guy for those up and coming guys to fight and beat and really throw themselves into title contention. Again, Dan Hooker, I think he's a fantastic fighter. He would beat my ass in a fight. There's no question about it. I just don't see him as championship caliber.
But when you say you don't see him as a draw, you mean you don't think do you still think he gets people excited at least, even if he may not make it to champ status? Do you still feel like people get pumped to see him?
Yeah, I mean he has action-packed fights. I mean he's one of those other guys that just goes out on their shield. And if I'm watching a fight and I see Dan Hooker just happens to be fighting on the card, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a banger. Dan Hooker comes in and slings him. But with that being said, am I ever going to buy a pay-per-view because Dan Hooker's on it? No.
Interesting.
And that's what I mean by draw. When we talk about draws, Oliveira's fighting for the belt. Okay, I'll buy that. Actually, I mean, I don't buy pay-per-views, but you just in case oh shit, Max Holloway, like these Islam, these guys are like, oh shit, I want to buy this pay-per-view. I want to go to LA and come to your house for a viewing party. But if you're like, hey, Justin, Dan Hooker's fighting this weekend, you want to come over? I'm doing a viewing party. That's not something I'm going to be. I mean, obviously, I'd probably still come, but I'm not excited to come over to watch Dan Hooker, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. I maybe not as excited as Oliveira or some guys, but I would be pretty. I mean, if Dan Hooker did have a title shot, I would actually be very excited. I think he's really good on the mic. He's funny. He's genuine. He's authentic. He fights like an animal. Israel Adesanya always says that he's a psychopath. Like he didn't tap to that crazy. Arm, like he broke his arm in a fight and didn't tap, and he's like, it's just I don't know where he broke it or dislocated or something crazy. Yeah, and he's just like, to me, he's a through and through just pure fighter. But one last comment from John Mott, and then let's move on. Hooker is lesser than Gaethje or Dustin in every way. They're Charizards, and Hooker's a Charizard.
That's a good. Maybe he's like a Charmeleon, maybe a Charmeleon to a Charizard.
I don't know anything about that game. Whatever you guys are talking about, Pokemon,
man, Pokemon. Come on, bro.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Pokemon, but Dan Hooker almost beat Dustin Poirier. Don't forget, they had a crazy fight. If you guys don't remember, go back and watch it. It was razor close. That was a crazy battle. Okay, moving on. We already touched on this early in the show, so we don't have to talk about it too much. But yeah, Conor McGregor's running for president, so we already kind of talked about this. I guess he's technically made it official. We made a video about this. It looks like he's not returning to fighting. I think it is what it is. Again, it could also be the flavor of the day or the flavor of the week. I could easily see him going back and training and changing his mind and saying, no, forget that. I want to come back and fight and finish my career and then run for a political position. But we shall see. Anyways, we don't want to belabor the point. I feel like we're talking too much about Conor when he's not really in the mix right now. But let's move on to this. Okay, so are you a Tom Aspinall fan?
I'm not a Tom Aspinall fan. I've won some money betting against him when he fought Curtis Blades, for the first time. So I was pretty happy about that when he got injured. But Tom Aspinall, I will say I'm a fan mostly because of his Nina Drama interview, and I just thought that was like the most gangster thing that any fighter's ever done. And,
I know what you're talking about.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was staged or not, but if it wasn't staged,
I don't
Tom
think.
Aspinall is a guy that I want to hang out with on the weekend and go drink beer with.
Tom Aspinall's a legend. Okay, the reason why I want to bring him up, there's a couple things, and I'm going to share one of his interviews that I saw the other night.
The
It's
Nina Drana interview? The Nina Drana
No,
one?
no,
That's so
not that
funny.
one. Not that one. It's with one of the guys from one of the UK reporters. It's on this channel one-on-one. I'm going to show it to you in 1 second. It's a really, really cool interview. But so look, apparently he had a meeting, I think yesterday or this week with the UFC, another meeting to get an update on the John Jones fight. So we'll talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about this entire crazy thing. So obviously, they're trying to make that fight. People were speculating that they were going to do it this summer because Dana White said John Jones versus Tom Aspinall was going to happen this summer. But then John Jones comes out and says he needs 6 months to prepare for Tom Aspinall. Chael Sonnen made a video laughing about this, being like, 6 months from when? What are you talking about? That you fought back in November. So what are you saying? Are you saying you haven't been training for the last 4 months? You need 6 months from then, 6 months from now? Like, what's happening? And obviously Tom Aspinall is very, very frustrated. He said in another interview with the Schmo, he's like, I'm over it. I'm done. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't care if it's John Jones or somebody else. He's like, I'm a fighter. I want to fight. That's it. I don't care who it's against. Just give me a fight. All of this has been crazy. And then we have John Jones negotiating for this big payday. Justin, as a fighter who's been in negotiations with the UFC, you've seen it all. Obviously, John Jones is a unicorn. He's in a category by himself. What do you think, man? Are we having this fight once and for all? Are we getting Aspinall versus Jones this year, or is this just never going to happen?
Man, this is a tough one to say. I've went back and forth with it a lot. John Jones keeps dropping like subtle hints. I think just trying to stay relevant in this conversation. But as overall, again, yeah, 6 months. Like, so the heavyweight title is just up in the air for 6 more months when you got, the interim champ ready to go. I just don't know how much longer. The UFC is just going to deal with this, and John Jones, arguably the biggest star and one of in the UFC, the greatest of all time. Everybody, I think more people think he's the greatest of all time than anybody else, including George St. Pierre, who I think is the greatest of all time. But with that being said, like, how much longer can you wait around? How much longer can you hold up the division? And John Jones is an athlete, and he's super smart. I mean, I'm not saying all his decisions are super smart, but he's smart. He knows how to manipulate the system and make it work out for him. But again, how much longer is the UFC going to tolerate this, man? And it's frustrating as a fan of the heavyweight division, because the heavyweight division is so exciting, because there's so many knockouts, man, and there's so many big knockouts, more than any other division. And I know they gas out a lot sometimes towards the end, but when you got someone like Tom Aspinall that can put a pace on guys for whether it's 3 rounds or 5 rounds, man, this is somebody I want to see active, and this is somebody I want to see now. And whether it's John Jones or not, it's not. I just saw a tweet from John Jones, Francis Ngannou, talking about how he's the best fighter in the world. And man, him and John tried to burn him. He's like, yeah, it's easy to say you're the best fighter in the world when you're standing across the street. And then Francis, all he wrote back was, cross the street. And I was just like, let's go. Like, I thought that was the best. I thought that was the best comeback line. And he's absolutely right. Like, John Jones, the greatest of all time. John Jones right now just needs to retire because he has everything to lose. He doesn't have that much to gain. He's already considered the greatest fighter in the world of all time. He needs to retire, because if he goes out there and wins, congratulations, you're still the greatest fighter of all time. But if you go out there and lose, now you're going to be talked. It's just like Anderson Silva, on a 16-fight win streak, arguably the greatest striker in MMA history. And then at the end of his career, he lost a bunch of fights, and you have all these casual fans, these casual new fans coming in talking about how Anderson Silva sucks. It's like they weren't there during that era when he won 16 fights in a row, and then fucks around with Chris Weidman a little too hard, then breaks his leg, tries to come back like that. And that's what's going to happen with John Jones, is these new casual fans are going to see him lose to Tom Aspinall and wonder. It's kind of like when Fedor started losing fights. At first Fedor, the baddest heavyweight of all time, the greatest heavyweight of all time, but if you watched him fight lately, he gets knocked out. He loses fight after fight. But these casual fans are at, how can you consider him the greatest of all time, or one of them, when he can't even beat this guy or this guy? And it's like, man, you guys don't understand the point. John Jones' time's over. He needs to hang him up and move on to something else.
Okay, let me ask you this as a fellow fighter, because this is a perfect question. Let's play a little hypothetical here. Let's say that John Jones, he's had this amazing career. Let's say he made like 8 or 9 million against Stipe, something like that. Let's say his net worth in general, because we know he likes to party. I'm taking a leap here in logic, but We know he likes to party. I'm not going to say he was totally irresponsible with his money, but let's say he was like somewhere in the middle. He was okay, right? He's got a spot. He saved some of his money. Maybe the last purse, let's say he clears $5 million after taxes and all that stuff, or maybe $6 million, somewhere in that zone. And he's pretty conscientious with it. But now he's got this legacy and he could walk away, or he could risk it. Let's say he's got a 50-50 shot against Aspinall. I still think he can beat Aspinall, but let's say he's got a 50-50 shot and now let's put you in that position. So you've got a net worth somewhere of like 10 million, let's say, a good, but like obviously recognizing that you're about to retire. So the big paydays are about to come to an end, which I'm sure can be scary for anybody, regardless of how much money you have in the bank. And now the UFC is offering you 30 million, which is after taxes is, let's say, around double your current net worth. Would you care so much about your legacy and wanting to walk away with it basically being intact, being perfect, being the greatest of all time? Or would you say, but because it's about double my current net worth, I'm willing to take that shot? What would you do?
You know, I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, a better human than John Jones or a better human than anybody, but to me, it is about a paycheck too. But I want to word this correctly. I mean, dude, I bet all the money I had in my last fight, like I'm the wrong guy to ask. I'm risking it 100%. Like there's not, you could say that I have a 25% chance to win, but I double my net worth. Listen, I have a family. I have a mom. You know, my dad just passed away. I want to take care of her. I want to retire her. I have a son coming up. I don't want him to go through the hardships. So to say, am I going to give him my 30 million when I die? Absolutely not. But I want to make sure that I'm financially set because shit happens, man. Like, you know, and bad things happen. And, you know, working with kids is like, you never know, you know, your mom could get cancer and now you got to pay for that, or your kid could get cancer or a bad car accident or an injury. And, you know, to have to accumulate generational wealth, to me is more important than any legacy. And I want to be able to take care of my family. I want to be able to take care of my sons. I want to be able to take care of my son's sons and so on and so forth. And doubling your net worth is how you do it. And at the end of the day, when you die and after a couple of years, people he's still gonna be known as one of the greatest of all time. And it doesn't matter. For me, it's about providing generational wealth for my family and fuck everything else.
The weird thing is, though, if he actually went in and lost, he'll make more money because he'll probably get an immediate rematch. And so it'll go from 30 million to 60 million or something crazy. Or maybe they won't pay him as who knows what they're negotiating, right, in the contract. Maybe they're saying, hey, we'll pay you this much for this much, and maybe only 15 million for a rematch. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's the crazy part. But that's a bit of inspiration because look, it's hard for me, I feel like, to put myself exactly in John Jones' position because I'm not a fighter, but you would do it. Maybe John Jones will as well. Let's see. That's a positive note. Let me give a couple comments, and then we're going to go to the final thing that I wanted to show everybody, which is this really cool clip of Tom Aspinall actually talking about the Paddy Pimblett fight. The reason why I wanted to highlight this is because, dude, Tom Aspinall is so smart. I love his analysis as a fighter. I wish he would go on more interviews and talk about other fights because I think he really thinks it through very carefully. And I love the breakdown that he gives about this matchup. But let's go here. We've got a loss to Tom would be so much more damaging than a win would be constructive. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why I didn't want John Jones to fight him from the beginning. Now I feel a little differently because I think the fans are clamoring for it, and let's let John Jones get paid. And I think John Jones could still win the fight, but let's see what happens there. Agree either way. John is the GOAT, win or lose. Of course. That'll just be in the public's perception, but all fighters and people who really know the sport, that won't change their opinion, I'm sure. I've been watching the UFC for 17 years, I think. I was there doing the Anderson Silva, Rich Frank. Oh, he was there during the Anderson Silva. Yeah, legend. And John Mott says, if he takes an L against Tom, is he better than Islam in a few years? I'm not sure. He could go the way of Anderson Silva, though. Anderson did take a lot of hard losses. And last but not least, oh my God, I remember thinking Rich was the best in that area, and then he got destroyed. Sucked. Okay, let's end on this final note. Check this out. This amazing interview from Tom Aspinall, and this is about Paddy Pimblett, the matchup between Paddy and Michael Chandler. Obviously, they're boys. They're both from the UK, but I thought we could end on this, and then I want to hear your thoughts, and then we'll close out the show. Check it out. Oh, muted.
How do you think Paddy's going to get on in Miami against Chandler? It's a great matchup for him.
I like the matchup. To be honest, I was there for Charles Oliveira and Mike Chandler.
Yeah.
And I got to watch him. I got the pleasure of watching them both up close.
Yeah.
And you know yourself, watching it on the TV and watching it when you're 10 feet away is two completely different things. And I watched Chandler, and granted, Chandler had been out the octagon a little while at a time, I think a couple of years or whatever, so he might have been a bit rusty. And he was fighting Charles Oliveira, who's one of the greats at the weight division. But I didn't rate him, to be honest. I thought he looked off. I thought, yeah, he wasn't great. He wasn't as good as I thought he was watching him on the TV. And I think
he had been out for a bit of time.
He had, definitely. Love watching him fight, obviously. If you're not a Michael Chandler fan, like, you're probably not going to enjoy MMA because he just goes for it.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Paddy's got a chance against him, mate. It's a big fight for Paddy. Paddy definitely does not crack under the pressure, which a lot of people do in these big fights.
Absolutely.
Paddy doesn't. We know that for a fact. Paddy's very awkward. Paddy's a lot bigger than him. Michael Chandler is a veteran, very athletic, a lot of power, so he can definitely land one on Paddy.
He's obviously taking care of himself a lot better when it comes to his diet and all those types of things. He's not blowing up. He seems to be a lot more focused on his work. And I think the penny's dropped that he understands what he is. Sometimes you understand who you are as a martial artist, don't you? He is an elite jiu-jitsu guy. Use the hands to get in and do the jiu-jitsu rather than stand and bang with people. If he stands and bangs with some stand and bangers, with a chin in the sky, you might get clipped.
When you're fighting Mike Chandler, there's always that chance.
Of course.
Because he throws them and he hits heavy.
Of course. Paddy wants to end up on his back with him.
Well, that's the thing.
Do you know what I mean? Because he seems really comfortable in those situations.
We see it with Paddy with the kicks. Paddy is very comfortable on his back.
Yeah.
Excellent submissions, triangles, arm bars, omoplatas, all that stuff. Does it really, really well. And that's quite rare in MMA. So Paddy just throws the kicks up with absolutely no regard if his leg gets caught or not, or if he gets tripped off balance or not, because he is very happy on his back. Like you say, I think the mental side is Paddy's biggest advantage because he knows who he is.
Yeah.
He knows what he's all about. He knows that he's not going to crumble under pressure. And his striking isn't the prettiest and most traditional of striking, but it's effective.
Yeah, very.
It's effective. And we see it with like guys like DDP. That awkwardness causes people a lot of problems, man. And I think that Paddy's striking is underrated. I think that Paddy can knock him out, to be honest. I think he can.
I wonder how Miami's going to...
There we go. I mean, I don't know. Like, that got me so hyped for this fight when I heard this. And I think he makes a very convincing argument that is really making me think that Paddy's going to win. Now, we have to take it with a grain of salt because these boys with Paddy, and I think they've trained, I don't think they train at the same gym, but they're both from the UK, and I believe they are friends or whatnot. So there's always that element. But Justin, let me turn over to you. After all that analysis, those talks, those discussions, what are you thinking?
I'm excited for the fight. I'm going to definitely tune in. This is Paddy's chance to show the world how good he really is. Do I think he's going to win? No, I don't. I mean, yeah, okay, he can be comfortable on his back, but you know what? Oliveira couldn't sub, and I don't see Paddy being a better grappler than Oliveira, especially when he had his back. He had a body lock for almost a whole round. Still couldn't do anything with it. He's going to be way too powerful. He's going to be way too athletic. I don't think he's going to be able to take Michael Chandler down. I mean, Michael Chandler is just a solid ball of muscle. Michael Chandler has incredible leg kicks. I know he's been finished by leg kicks before too, but Michael Chandler has incredible leg kicks, and I just see him coming out, destroying Paddy's base and having his way with him. And, you know, if I end up being wrong and Paddy ends up winning, I mean, that's great. It's great for the UFC. It's great because they have this up-and-coming star. And, you know, I didn't really like Paddy at first when he came in dancing and doing all this stuff. He just looked really arrogant and cocky. And especially when he was getting up to over, 220 pounds in between fights, I just had a really hard time respecting him. But as of recent, I think he's really dialed in his training. I think he's really dialed in his diet. I follow him on social media. He doesn't look like he's ballooning up. I think he's taking it really serious. And this could be his time. And if he's able to make good of this opportunity, it's going to be incredible for him and incredible for the UFC because they will have a new star on their hands. And, Tom talked about breaking under the pressure, and a lot of fighters do. And there's a lot of pressure, when you're being put up because you have all this hype behind you and this UFC. And, UFC right now doesn't have too many stars right now. They don't have a lot of star power, and they have a chance to give Paddy Pimblett this star power for whatever reason. If he goes out there and loses to Michael Chandler, he's going to lose a little bit of star power here. But if he goes out there and wins, he's going to shoot up very, very fast, and he's going to be one of the fastest rising stars in the UFC.
It's so exciting. I said this before when all those fights were announced. They announced like Ilya moving up, Paddy versus Chandler, like all these other big matchups. This Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. This was the fight that I was most excited about. And once again, going back to that same formula, it is the stakes, because if Paddy can win, this will be massive for him, for the lightweight division, and for the UFC, and could tee up a potential matchup down the line of a real grudge match between Ilya and Paddy. And people might scoff at that, but that would be so exciting. I don't care, even if you're not excited now, just watch. You will be blown away. You will be enthralled. It'll be one of the best-selling pay-per-views, at least of whatever year that will be in. It will be, I think, one of the best or the best-selling pay-per-view of that year. So a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to. We still haven't heard the announcement of DDP versus Hamzat. We don't know what's going on in the lightweight division. Let's go. Fingers crossed. Islam versus Gaethje is next. This is an exciting time to be a UFC fan. And we got this new deal that's about to happen with Netflix, hopefully, where this sport is just going to be blown up throughout the world. Everybody's going to be watching it. I cannot wait. Let's go. And last but not least, thank you everybody for the new subs, the new people that are joining along and watching on our channel. As I mentioned, we've gained a crazy amount of subs this week. I still don't know why, but I'm going to just try and be cool about it and be happy and not question too much, because it's weird. We all of a sudden got a bunch of subs without like a viral video. So that's why I am.
Well, do you think it's because we're posting so many videos? I mean, we're posting at least one a day, and you're probably posting more than that. I mean, I did 3 videos alone this week. I'm going to do a couple more today that we're just putting the algorithm, and people are seeing our logo and they're clicking and subscribing.
Yeah, that very well could be exactly what's happening. I'm just a paranoid person, and yeah, I don't know. I just I need to just enjoy and appreciate the fact that the numbers are growing. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird because in the past it's always like, oh, this video blew up, so we got a bunch of subs from that video. This time it's just like they're just coming in, and I don't know why. But yeah, like we've gotten 250, 262 or something crazy in the last few days. So anyways, we are thrilled. Don't take it the wrong way if you guys are a new subscriber. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Tehran says, damn good stream as usual. What a legend. Thank you, Tehran. We appreciate it. We appreciate you joining in, and not only joining in and obviously being a follower and a watcher, but giving us a lot of good insights. We appreciate your takes, and we know how dialed into the sport you are. So we really appreciate that. And John as well, thank you again for you joining, and everybody else. We appreciate it. John says, y'all rock. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you back here on Monday for our regular show. But in between, we're going to have videos every day. As I mentioned, 1 to 2 videos every day on the grind. We are going to be creating tons and tons of content. Last but not least, Western says, sorry, I've been distracted, but listening. No worries. All good. You are Western, I think, is the OG. He's the original.
He's the original, man.
Yeah.
First subs, him and Celine.
Yeah. Western and Celine. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you in the next video. Take it easy.